evening and welcome to the Revitalize Rice and Larpenteur Kickoff Community Engagement event. We're so thrilled to see so many members of the community out here tonight. As we get started, I want to recognize a few folks who are in the room today and our hosts for the evening. So I want to start by recognizing Pastor Dana Nelson and Galilee Church for opening up their hall for us this evening. So please join me in thanking them.
I'm clapping too because I'm so excited about this conversation to make our community a safer, better place for all people, and it's really, really wonderful that we're coming together from 3 cities. So as much as we can support this process, we love the community. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And I am Jonathan Weinhagen. I'm Vice President of the St. Paul Area Chamber of Commerce. We serve the communities of St. Paul, all of Ramsey County, and the East Metro, and are supported by our business members and have great relationships with the communities that are coming together here to begin looking at the future of this intersection. So how did we get here? And it starts with lots and lots of leadership. Leadership at the community level, leadership at the city and county staff level, and most importantly, I think leadership at our elected level. So the members who are in this room, who are taking their evening, our elected officials, to be here to hear the community voice. These types of things don't happen without our elected leadership. So lots of leadership, lots of people coming together, lots of community conversations over the course of the last number of years with regards to this area. And community conversations that were largely happening in silos. Sometimes they were crossing over. So last fall we had the opportunity to bring out some consultants with the help of East Metro Strong. Will Shore with East Metro Strong is in the audience today. We brought in the consultants from Smart Growth America and did 2 days of workshops that really concluded with looking at the Larpenteur Avenue corridor and thinking about, where can we revitalize that corridor. A couple of the outcomes and recommendations were looking at the complexity of planning across multiple jurisdictions. So we've got 3 cities and a county road all coming together and converging. Thinking about the opportunity to leverage our upcoming comprehensive plans. So what does that look like when we start to think about planning for the future and leveraging that moment in time where we have an opportunity where all of our communities are going to be thinking about this. And then a recommendation to get really specific with regards to one area that we could identify for collaboration, and that's where we came together on Rice and Larpenteur, maybe being the most challenging of the nodes along Larpenteur Avenue, and a recommendation that community engagement on the front end was going to be critical to any success of revitalization. So that's where we are. We're here. We're here with the community engagement piece. There isn't a vision that's going to be unveiled. There isn't an exciting poster of what we're going to see here over the course of the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We're really looking for the input of this community, and we're excited to have an opportunity in a few minutes to work through that, to hear from you, and to share with you some potential next steps. So with that, I am excited to welcome Councilmember Kathy Ginneman to provide a little bit of a snapshot, as each community will, with regards to where they are and how they're thinking about this corridor.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here to take part in this tonight. As you're familiar with that intersection, we have probably a fairly small stake compared to the other 2 big players. But the stake we have over there happens to be a couple of places that no one would cry a river if they were not there, I presume. I will let you know that currently we don't have any plans for that corner. As part of it has sort of, if you will, redeveloped itself, so to speak, meaning new fronts and that type of thing. A couple of players from the little strip have moved up the road. One of them should move down the road, but whatever. You can't do anything about that. When people own something, they have a right to develop it and use it. I will tell you, though, that, as you know, I'm I'm referring to the Starlight nightclub, and we have really tightened up our policing of that place. It should be helping you somewhat, I would say. Our current police chief is, at the very least, creative, and at the very most, I think he never sleeps. But he has taken this on as a project, knowing that it's harming us and it's affecting the neighboring communities. And so there is a new owner yet again. And he started sinking money into the place before he had his license. Not a wise move. But anyway, that gave us the opportunity. Our police chief said, let's make a strategic plan for him, a work plan, an operations plan, and tie it to his license. So we have. And so far he's not doing too well, but it's a free world, do what you need to do. But it's being monitored. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's often a camera in the parking lot over there with the blinking lights on the top. That's the Maplewood Mobile Police Camera. And you never know when it's on and when it's not. That's to see who's going in and out of where. So once we get this man, under some kind of a vision of where he needs to go to operate, I think everybody will be much happier. I think it's been, knock on wood, fairly quiet lately. Believe me, it's as huge a concern to us as it is to all of you. First of all, it's not a very good way to be coming out Rice Street, and the gateway to Maplewood is this place where people get bludgeoned in the parking lot. It's not a real good image. So we are working on that. But as far as redevelopment of the actual property, we don't have that on our radar at the moment. Doesn't mean it never will be. Doesn't mean we can't be part of a bigger image down the road. But as I was speaking to someone before, I think it was Tammy. Redevelopment is a tough gig, and it takes a lot of money. And we have actually 4 major areas in Maple we'd like to redevelop, and most of our attention right now is going to Gladstone. If you haven't been down Frost Avenue east of 61 lately, take a drive. It's shaping up really nicely. So yeah, we're capable of it. Yes, we have targets. It's just that all targets will have that level take a lot of money and a lot of staff time. So we know that that's a corner. We want to participate in this, hoping everybody has something to gain by working together. Actually, on a personal note, I've been trying to do this for 8 of my 15 years. Yes, they've tolerated me for 15 years in Maplewood. There's something wrong with them. But I've been trying to get this going for 8 years, that we think regionally in all of our borders, even with what develops. Why would we want to build a senior housing on this side of the road and then Roseville build a senior housing right across the road? That doesn't make any sense. So this is a regional thought, as you said, that we start small but on something that affects enough people. So from that standpoint, we just lost our biggest piece of property left on Rice through the St. Paul water utility. Oh good, more untaxable land. But anyway, so that development potential is not there anymore. So that makes us a little less of a player as far as what we will be doing, and therefore the money that could come in for us to participate deeper. But we, like you mentioned, all cities are, embarking on their comprehensive plan update in 2017. So we will be looking at policies that affect areas like that. How can we change things so we attract better businesses, and how do we make it easier for people to do the right thing? So that's kind of where our aim for the property is. Anytime, I've been this long enough now to know that when you gang together for grant money, you're much better off. And so we're definitely on for signing for grant money, because I think it helps everybody. If you can say, yeah, we're in, this area needs help, and it's affecting 3 communities, it makes a difference. So we're certainly there. We're trying to organize ourselves right now as what do we expect out of ourselves to help businesses develop, whether they're new or old and need updating. And that will affect this down the road. But this is in the planning stages, and like I said, we're in for the long haul, like the rest of you are. The one big thing that we think is a great development just this past year are the gardens across the street. Thank you to this church for being the organizers. That's a wonderful thing. I don't know if you're all familiar with it, but it is a wonderful program, and it's right into our hands, if you will, because we are big community garden people in Maplewood. We have 2 other large sites, and one of the other sites is also church donated for the use. So you see the mission has spread, that church and community go together. So this tonight just reinforces it again. But I thank the people from Galilee who took that on and brought it to us, basically put together. They had the people from McCarran's Pub on board. They knew what they wanted out of it. It's a wonderful thing. And I consider that a really good redevelopment, if you will, because the property is still open. You can kind of enjoy looking at it, and yet it's fulfilling a function of people can raise their own food, but not only that, particularly in some of our immigrant communities, people are finding employment opportunities by using these kinds of places. So it's a great thing. That is a redevelopment piece. It just doesn't have bricks and mortar. All it has now is a water tank, I think. But anyway, so we thank you for that. So all I'm saying is we're in to help however we can, but it's not a high redevelopment piece for us at the moment.
Join me in thanking Councilmember Ginneman. Now we'll have Mayor Rowe.
All right, well, thank you all for being here tonight, and welcome to Roseville. If you've never been here before, shame on you. But I hear from people all the time that you've been to Roseville to go shopping or whatever, so I doubt that too many of you have never been here before. I want to just be respectful of the time because we really want to hear from all of you, but we did want to give you a little bit of an update of what's going on, that got us to this point. And again, I should mention I'm Mayor Dan Rowe of Roseville. Been mayor for just about 6 years now, 2 more years left of my second term. So the big headline is that the City of Roseville and the City Council established this southeast part of Roseville as a very high priority to look at a council and city government level starting in 2016 and then obviously going forward as things may develop, so to speak. And so a couple of the things that sort of have happened in the recent past by way of development opportunities include that we're looking at the possibility of purchasing a couple of properties on the southeast side of Lake McCarran's because those are on the market and available and may be able to be used for redevelopment purposes down the road. You may also be aware that the Armory is going to be no longer used by the U.S. government, and so they have given the City of Roseville the right of first refusal on that property. The second right of refusal goes to Ramsey County after that, and we asked for an extension of that time period to the end of this year, so we've got some time to have some discussions about exactly what happens there and what the community is kind of looking for because, as was mentioned, money is always an issue. Cities have limited resources. We can't buy every single property that's potentially able to be redeveloped and frankly shouldn't because we may have a role, but the private sector also does very well with redevelopment largely. But just make folks aware of that. We'll be doing more talking about that as we go forward, and maybe some ideas will come out of this discussion that can feed into that process as well. You may be aware that the former ICO gas station is no longer, finally, at that corner of Rice and Larpenteur on the northwest corner. Redevelopment of that site is pending. There's some approval process that needs to be initiated by the owners of the new owners of that property, so we don't know too much more at this point. Another opportunity we're looking at is for multi-jurisdictional policing in the area. I know that's public safety is a concern that people have expressed in all 3 communities, and issues have been brought up in all 3 communities. So definitely already the public safety folks are talking to each other in all 3 communities and frankly Ramsey County jurisdiction as well. So that's underway, and that we're looking at maybe some opportunities to put that into bricks and mortar in some way. We did start the process to purchase the property at 1716 Marion Street, which is in amongst all the apartments over there, to develop into a park, which will provide an opportunity with partners to provide services to the residents of those buildings who don't have a lot of transportation capabilities to go to community education classes on the other side of town or the other side of the metro area, etc. So that's an opportunity that we're getting into. And then I'll just point out that Aon, who's a well-reputed developer of affordable housing in the metro area, did purchase 2 properties, one right near the 1760 Marion site in Roseville, and then another one that's farther east of here in Maplewood that's sort of out of this sort of area, but it is another one that they're working on. We've had great success as a city working with Aon. They did the project, the new building that was built on the southwest corner of Snelling and Highway 36 that you may have seen a few years ago. The city helped with the financing on that through some housing TIF funding. And then just talking about partnerships, I think it was already brought up, it's the last bullet on this slide here. The community gardens was a great partnership, and I think the key part of it for me as a takeaway was that there really was very little involvement by government in making that happen. We played a role, and it was, I think, an important role, but really it was the people of the community and organizations like the church and others who really made that happen. And so as we think about the solutions to whatever we're talking about tonight, the reality is that a lot of it may not involve the elected officials and government people that are here this evening, but a lot of it may just come out of people working together, perhaps across border lines and across roads. So keep that in mind as well. But some of the other partnerships, we've got a project to do a sidewalk on the north side of Larpenteur, which is a partnership with Ramsey County. That actually went out for bids, and the bids came in high, so we're rebidding it later in the year when we might get better, more attractive pricing. We've got a rental licensing program in the city of Roseville where we partner with our landlords and property owners to maintain the properties in a livable and healthy condition for the tenants and make sure that that is going on. The interagency group that we've set up that kind of was an outgrowth of working with a lot of the Karen immigrants in this area is going strong, and there's a lot of partnerships that came out of that, including the Karen Organization of Minnesota, the school district, the Roseville School District 623, and others, and that's involving almost all the departments of the city of Roseville, Parks and Rec, Police, Community Development, and all of that as part of that process as well. And then sort of an outgrowth of that was the Rental Rights and Responsibilities video, which was developed with TPT Television and Echo. It's a multi-language video that's available to newly minted immigrants and residents in our communities about when you're a renter in an apartment, what are your responsibilities as a tenant and what are your rights. And so it's very basic information, probably most of us take it for granted, but for folks that are new to this country, let alone this community, it's a very valuable tool, and we really appreciate that partnership, or a series of partnerships across the whole metro area, frankly. We had numerous communities involved in that and supporting that, so we're very grateful for that. It's just an example of the kind of things we can do. And finally, not on the slide, but staying engaged in this process. It's step one tonight of many, many steps, some of which won't even involve me or Jonathan or Councilmember Brenmon. We have information at thecityofroseville.com/RRL, which is Revitalize Rice Larpenteur. You can go there for updates and information and see some of the information that will be presented this evening. You can also sign up for updates at cityofroseville.com/southeast to be on an email list to get more information. So just wanted to publicize that.
So, good evening. I'm Amy Brenmon. I serve on the St. Paul City Council. I represent Ward 5, which includes Como, the north end, and a pretty decent slice of the east side. And I have a few project updates I'm going to share with you, actually 3. But before I get started, I wanted to say why I think it's so important that we invest here and why St. Paul is at the table. I mean, we're sort of the elephant in the room with half the intersection, and there was nothing more delightful than finding out that Roseville was far deeper along in the process than we were, and Maplewood is willing to come along for the ride. It was a great revelation this past year, so it's I always say it's our first peek into Maplewood, our first peek into Roseville, our first peek into St. Paul, and it's not the best peek, you know? And especially because this is such a richly diverse area, wide range of incomes, cultural backgrounds, and just a great history, and obviously people who care so much that they're spending their evening here to talk about this. I want to make sure that you all know that there are people that we know are not here that want to be here, and people who are planning to meet in separate settings, because we want to meet people where they're at. I see we have a representative from the Karen Organization of Minnesota. We are also planning to meet at the Karen Organization of Minnesota in Karen and talk to the community. So we're hearing what the Karen community wants here, and we are having a special meeting with the business community. And I know we've got people here like Rana Woolery, who's worked so hard to organize apartments in the St. Paul side, and I would guess in Roseville as well, and to use the formats that they have to get people involved as well. So we're gonna get the voices of everyone at the table to the best of our ability. Because at the end of the day, we wanna make this intersection a place where people want to live, where they feel good, where they thrive, and where it's a place that they want to be. So with that as background, I had 3 updates that I wanted to share, because these are things people ask me about on a regular basis. I say number 1, what's happening on Rice and Larpenteur in St. Paul is we're all in. We're here, we want to make a change, we want to make a difference. We are coming with resources, we are coming with great planning staff. We're in for the long haul. We had a huge loss recently of the Linder's site, or the Linder's greenhouse, and I know anybody who's lived here for any amount of time misses it the way I know I miss it. The good news is the property was purchased by the Community School of Excellence. Their funding and financing and contract issues all are cleared up, and they should start excavating the site probably within the next couple of weeks. They're building a school that targets Karen, Hmong, and Karenni students. That, as it says, the construction will begin this summer. It's a beautiful school. It has a soccer field and 2 playgrounds that are open and accessible to the public. We are working with them to add a sidewalk. There isn't a sidewalk on the south side of Larpenteur right now, but you got to start someplace. So this will be a beautiful amenity, much more beautiful than graffiti and couches and TVs. And, sorry about that. Call that stuff in. So that's really exciting. A $30 million construction project starting this summer. Second, I think this is fabulous. The Grand Round on Wheelock Parkway is currently under construction. Perhaps you've had fun trying to drive through the area. It's a beautiful project that not only narrows the street, but adds sidewalks to both sides of Wheelock Parkway and a recreational bike path. It's being done in 3 segments. The first segment was from Rice to Edgerton Street. The second segment will be from Western to Como Lake. The third segment will include the Rice Street up the big horseshoe and connected to Western. It's the most complicated piece that will be last. And we have Kathleen Angelow with our Parks Department here in the back. She's the project manager, and if you have questions about it, you can check in with her afterwards. She is a superstar. Also, we are working hand in hand with the county and the school district on a Safe Routes for School plan. I'm sure all of you heard last year the tragic news of an 11-year-old boy being hit by a car on Rice Street, and it really brought to light the fact that, I think we all know traffic has to slow down on Rice Street, and especially when you think of how many schools and libraries and public amenities and parks are there, and people, the Hmong Elder Care Center said that their clients don't like crossing the street even with a light because they're so concerned about the way traffic acts. And so we're concerned about that, and we're trying to take strides, starting out with a Safe Routes for School plan with Washington Technology Magnet, working on some sidewalk infill, and we have requested a reduction in the speed limit on Northern Rice Street, where it's currently 35. We'd like to see it go down to 30 or less. And an overall Rice Street study from all the way down from the start of it at the Capitol to, well, I was going to say Larpenteur, but what the heck, you know? We're all in it together. So that's what's going on in St. Paul.
Good evening. I'm Heather Worthington. I'm the Deputy County Manager for Economic Growth and Community Investment. These are my notes, so you can see how short it's going to be. I just want to talk about the intersection. There are actually 2 county roads here, right? Rice and Larpenteur. So I think we won the lottery here. This intersection, though, we identified in our early corridor discussions about how we work better with our municipal partners to accomplish some of the goals that they have around economic development, to talk about how we move people more safely on foot, on bicycles, and in cars. And so one of the things that we have been working on, and we just rolled out to the county board, Commissioner Rettman, was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago? Time flies, right? The All Abilities Transportation Plan. And this was done in conjunction with the City of St. Paul, our partners, really, I think, in response to what's been a really bad summer for pedestrians in St. Paul. And so we wanted to talk about how we move people more safely, how we accommodate people of all abilities, and that means if you're 8 or 80, and you have a hard time crossing a really wide right-of-way, like Larpenteur Avenue or Rice Street. And so we wanted to be thinking about our transportation system through that lens. So that's something that I would welcome you to look at on our website. We have a section of our website that's dedicated to new initiatives, and this is on there, and all of the data is there. So if you need some light reading before bedtime, I recommend it to you. I want to talk about job creation, major goal for Ramsey County. Our residents deserve economic prosperity no matter where they live in Ramsey County. And so we're very interested in this intersection and what you as a community would like to see here and how that may create jobs for our residents and create long-term economic sustainability. I think Councilmember Juniman alluded to this earlier. Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Sorry. 30% of our tax base in Ramsey County is exempt. I'll say it again, 30%. It's the highest in the state. It's primarily due to state uses, as you might imagine, being a capital city can be a big impact on a community in terms of the amount of tax exemption. But primarily, we fund things like parks and roads through our property tax. So this is an important issue for us and something that we want to tackle working with the community. We want to make sure that long-term, this community has a healthy tax base that supports the needs and amenities that you're looking for as residents. I want to also just talk about two items regarding infrastructure. The first is that the county builds and maintains a lot of roads. You drive on them every day. And one of the things that we know is that we will spend hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of our next 5-year capital improvement plan, our CIP, as we have to have an acronym for everything. And so one of the things that we've been talking about is as we spend those dollars, how do we get the most impact per dollar that we can in terms of how we leverage investment from the private sector and how we think about the amenities that you're looking for as residents and think about the amenities our business owners are looking for. And so it is this idea that we not only need to do economic development, but we need to do impact investing. So this is something else that I would commend to you on our website, and I would appreciate feedback that you have on that. You can contact us through the website. And we're really here tonight to listen. The other thing I would just say about this right away, and you look at that, you look here at that intersection, how much asphalt is in that area, right? So there's an interesting opportunity here. Putting on my economic development hat for a moment. And the other thing I would point out to you is that Rice and Larpenteur is exceptionally wide right-of-way. I think Larpenteur is about 120 feet curb to curb. And I want to say Rice is probably shy of that, probably about 100. So in terms of how you cross that right-of-way as a pedestrian and how you utilize businesses on these four corners or amenities, that's an important consideration as we do our planning work. And so that's something we care deeply about. Our engineers at the county and our planning folks, a couple of them are in the room right now, Mary Lou and Denise and our HRA. So we want to hear from you tonight about that as well. Is there one more? I think that's it. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
We're about to get to the fun part where we start hearing from you. We've been talking about hearing from you all night, and that's exactly what we want to do. Before we do that, we want to set the stage a little bit, now that you have the updates from each of the communities. And one of those things is to remind you that there isn't a plan. The opportunity to provide your input starts today. The second piece is that economic development, as Councilmember Ginneman alluded to and many of the other speakers, can be a really slow process, but it can also be something that is incremental and change can happen over the course of time. So we want to present you with a little bit of a picture of what incremental progress could look like, starting with a facade and moving into small improvements along a corridor over the course of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and envision a completely different community, a completely different opportunity, a completely different corridor. So that's step one. The second step is, there are big opportunities for redevelopment, and these are privately held parcels of property. But it's to start asking questions about, could we turn something like this into something like this? And do we as a community want to? That's just as important of a question. So these are some of the things we want you to start thinking about as we break into groups. There are individual sheets with 4 questions that we'd like people to start thinking about amenities around the site, what do you want to see around the site, what are some of the common themes, with an eye on reporting back at the end. But I think we're going to add a few additional tables over on this side, so we may have to split some people up a little bit organically because we had such a great turnout tonight. So, great.